Just to let you know that we have three Facebook groups: Textile Skills Centre, which is a general group, but also the Textile Teachers Centre for teachers, obviously, specifically, and an A-level group as well. If you actually teach A-levels, they're sort of subject specific, and lots of helpful people on there. We also have YouTube, which Malcolm's recording this evening will go on the YouTube channel where a lot of it will be watched. And we also have Instagram. Please join us on Instagram because we do a lot of giveaways on Instagram. And we have several face-to-face courses. I've got one this Friday. Dawn and me are doing one at the data central offices in July. And then we've got some coming up in October and November. If you're primary school teachers, do remember that we have 8 free primary resources. Do get hold of Dawn or myself if you want to talk about those. We are either Dawn or Nikki, but not Dawn or Nikki, but Nikki at Textile Skills Centre or Dawn at Textile Skills Centre. And there's 8 free fabulous resources. We've had some really good feedback recently on those. And then we have several online on-demand courses. Some are short, some medium, some long. So they're all like various different prices on there, but there are a lot of courses on there. And we've also got a pattern pack and a scheme of work, which sell very well. If you want to know anything about those, please just contact me and I can go through and tell you what they're all about. And then looking forward, we've got a big thing coming up, which is called Future Threads, which is linking careers to industry. And Dawn and me have been working very, very hard on this, haven't we, Dawn, for quite a while now. And we're just hopefully, I've just finished up 2 and halfway through 1, and Dawn has one huge one, tailoring and weave. I've seen it and it's massive, going on. So they will be released shortly, I think probably after the summer. But look for them because they're fantastic. And if you want it, there you can get your phone straight onto that. Or if you want any links, please ask me in the chat, and I will be in the chat to go through anything that you want to know or any links, anything that you're thinking about. Hi, Margaret. Okay, Malcolm, over to you.
Malcolm, I'd like to just introduce this amazing man. Can't remember when we met you, Malcolm, but anyway, Malcom the Weaver Campbell is going to talk to you today about his all his amazing what he's been up to, and also his incredible books, his children's books. So over to you, Malcolm.
Okay, thanks very much, Dawn. Thanks, Nikki, for the introductions. I started my career back in 1969. I'll give you a bit of a preamble as to why I'm here. In 1969, I was 15 years old. My uncles had me enrolled at Tullyallen Police College. I did not want to be a policeman. My mother was a mender of cloth, and she encouraged me to get involved in textiles with some of the mills in the borders of Scotland. One mill, Adam Patterson, gave me an apprenticeship in 1969, which I concluded in 1975 as a woolen weaver and textile designer. Moved down to Huddersfield and worked with Hurston Mallinson for 3 years. As part of that 3 years, I was involved very much with Huddersfield University, setting up the textile design courses for the university. And it's dismayed me recently to see that these design courses that we set up over 50 years ago have all been dropped. And a lot of the textile universities are dropping textiles, which dismays me and must dismay you, Dawn and Nikki, and your audience very, very much. Huddersfield, we had textile, it was one of the top ones. We took it from a campus of 2,000 to over 20,000 students. They were coming from all over the world to learn textiles and textile design. Today, there is one course online, which is sustainability, which is very, very sad. I went to the Scottish College of Textiles up in Galashiels, which is now Heriot Watt, and they've also dropped a lot of their textile courses. You've got classes of 2 or 3 students. And one of the things I'm trying to do with the project I'm going to talk to you about tonight is not to encourage students, not to encourage O-level and A-level children, but to work with 4-year-old to 8-year-old children. I'm fairly well qualified in talking about that as a father of 7 children and a grandfather of 10 children. I've seen a dramatic change in the way that I was brought up, how my older children were brought up, and how my grandchildren are brought up. And one of the things that I do now is I do online presentations to schools to encourage 4 to 8 year olds to learn about colour, to learn about weaving, to learn about art and craft, but also to learn about nature. Just very, very quickly, my career moved from Hurston Mallinson in Huddersfield. I moved into retail. For 7 years, I was design director for the Edinburgh Woolen Mill. We took it through the period where it was all cashmere and lamb's wool and top quality Scottish merchandise before it was taken over by a guy called Philip Day, who really downgraded it and piled it high and sold it fast till eventually it closed down. I then moved to Yorkshire, where I worked for Parkland, a company that produced 5 million metres of cloth. Marks and Spencers were our biggest customer. We sold to Next, Jacques Vert, Jaeger, all these people. Beautiful quality, pure new wool for ladies' wear. 80% of our business was ladies' wear. If you now try to get ladies' wear in pure new wool on the high street, you will struggle. And yet it was only 30 years ago that there was lots. We had the essential suit where you would buy a jacket, you'd get trousers, skirt, everything would be in pure new wool piece dye. From Parkland, I moved to Alexander Drew, textile printers in Rochdale for 2 years. I then moved to Holland and Sherry up in Scotland. But before that, I was director of the Woolmark Company. So my career has taken me from woolen spinning, worsted spinning, retail, marketing of wool, and very, very top quality. The most expensive fabric I've ever designed was a £4,000 a metre Vicuna quality, which was very much a marketing tool. We only made it in Vicuna shade and navy, but was very popular with some of the wealthy customers around the country. So my career has been a good one, and even now I've changed. I'll mention it towards the end of the presentation, what I'm now doing, still involved in textiles. People ask me if I'm going to retire. I will never retire because I love what I do. And I've got a few projects that I'm working on. The one I'm going to talk to you tonight is is working with the Society of Dyers and Colourists. I started working with the Society of Dyers and Colourists many, many years ago as a member. And I've taken an interest in the societies. I was president of the Bradford Textile Society in 2004. I was president again in 2024 and 2025. I'm a member of the Textile Institute and a member of the Royal Society of Arts, and I'd like to think that I'm going to support the textile industry for many, many years to come. What we did with the children's work, I was invited by BBC Scotland to go with my twins up to the Isle of Lewis to do a television programme for CBeebies to teach children about the Harris tweed industry. Aidan and Zoe, my twins, and I went up and we spent 3 days being filmed, and BBC Scotland put together a 15-minute programme, which is very, very good. If you go on YouTube, Malcolm the Weaver, you'll see the programme that we made. But it's very, very good, not just because it's me and my twins, but also because the BBC worked on the archives, and they've got some fantastic archives of weaving, of spinning, of dyeing of yarns, etc., etc. Now, when I do my presentations to school, to the 4 to 8 year olds, I ask the teachers to show this presentation first, so that by the time I go on screen, the kids think I'm a film star. They think, here's Malcolm the Weaver to talk to us on the screen. So it's a very good programme. And what I realised as I was doing the programme was that even my son and daughter didn't know about the colours, didn't know about the weaves, didn't know about the textiles. So I decided to write a book, Weaver of a Life in Colour. And my daughter Sharon, who's a graphic artist, she trained at Huddersfield University, took textiles, but it was more graphics, it was more surface pattern. Sharon illustrated the book that I wrote. Donna, if you could put the first slide on, that would be great. The Malcolm the Weaver name, when I was invited, because I'd designed for the Emmanuels, Zandra Rhodes, Paul Costello, etc. I designed a lot of cloths, fancy cloths for these people. My training was not about a Panama or a twill. It was about intricate cloths with beautiful handles. Finishing was as big a part of the cloth as the design or the colours. The set of the cloth, the twist of the yarn, the type of wool that was used, everything was intricate. And when somebody said to me, I want a piece of fabric that will do this, I knew what to do to make that piece of fabric happen. So as a weaver, I was fairly well known with some of the designers. And in 2010, Her Majesty the Queen held a reception at Buckingham Palace for the British fashion industry. I'd gone down there with little bits of cloth in my pocket because having worked with the Harris Tweed industry, I had Harris Tweed, I had tartans, and I knew how important these cloths were to Queen Victoria. The Harris Tweed industry started in 1845 when Lady Dunmore promoted a tartan, the Lady Dunmore tartan, which was based on the Murray of Atholl. She promoted that in 1845. In 1847, Queen Victoria bought Balmoral Castle, and in 1853, Prince Albert designed the Balmoral tartan. When I was introduced to Her Majesty the Queen, I was introduced as Mr. Campbell from Holland and Sherry. I says, "Good evening, ma'am. My name's Malcolm. I'm a Scottish weaver." She turned to the Duke of Edinburgh and said, "This is Malcolm the Weaver." So there, as you can see on the two books at the top, is Malcolm the Weaver, christened by Her Majesty the Queen. The first book that we did was very much about teaching children about colour and about the emotion of colour. It teaches a child what they want to do in their lives. And one of the things that concerns me is that children are being turned into little consumers today, and they're not allowed to develop into the magic of what life should be about. So Weaver of a Life in Colour talks about the little black house boy, what he's going to be, what he wants to be when he grows up. Does he want to be a policeman? Does he want to be a spaceman? What does he want to be? And he hears the weaver, he looks at the weaving, and he decides to become a weaver. I'll then go on to talk about different things about colour and the emotion of colour, which when I'm doing the online presentations to children, they find fascinating. You know, what's your favourite colour? All the little hands go up to red and then to yellow and orange and green and blue. And by the time I've finished and I've explained what the colours mean, and I ask them again, they've all changed their minds. And even the teachers change their mind when they find out that orange is about marketing and about vitality and exuberance. Everybody likes orange, whereas initially it was all reds and greens and etc. The second book, The Rainbow That Mixed Colours, teaches children about pollution, about the rivers and the seas, and that's been a very popular one. I did a lecture to 150 children 2 weeks ago at Tintwistle School in Derbyshire, and the children have been learning about pollution of rivers, pollution of seas, and how different reflections of sunlight can change the colours. The book is a flip book. If I can show you, if you can see when I hold this one up, that is the Rainbow That Mixed Colours, which talks about river and sea pollution. If I turn the book over, you've got The Moon That Shone Dark, and that's about air pollution from the factories. Now, the children love the fact that this book twists over and you get two books in one. So that was the second book. The third book was The Tide That Stayed Out, where I teach children about the waxing and waning of the moon, the ebbing and flowing of the tide, and they get it straight away. You know, a lot of adults don't know that the crescent moon waxing is different to the crescent moon waning, and that in Australia it's the other way around, and on the equator it's like a U and an N. And the book on the other side of that is The Wind That Never Blew, What Would Happen If There Was No Wind. So if you could move on to the next slide, Dawn, please. So here it gives you an indication of what the children learn. We talk about all the animals. We talk about foxes, seagulls, chickens, Tweed, the collie dog. And you can see here, I was a bit wary when I first did this because when I learnt about the Munsell system, I was 16, 17-year-old at the Scottish College of Textiles. I talked to children about the hue, value, chroma. I can look at a colour and I can identify 3 numbers. I could then go to a jar of colours and pick that specific colour from the numbers that I've written down. I was amazed when I realised that children have the same skill, the same talent to do it. I thought it would be quite complicated for them. It's not. I talk about the hue, which is easy to get if it's a red, a green, a blue or whatever. I get about the value, whether it's a light one or a dark one, but the chroma is the one that I thought they might struggle with. But they all get it with a glass of Ribena. If you put a lot of Ribena in, you've got a strong chroma. If you only put a little bit in and a lot of water, you've got a very light chroma. Now, when they get that, they then start to talk about a whole lot of different things with colour. I talked to them about primary and secondary colours, and my daughter came up with this idea of the 3-coloured rainbow, red, blue and yellow, the primary colours. And then from the primary colours, you get the purple, green, and orange, the secondary colours. So what I believe we've done with this first book is made it all very, very simple for the child to appreciate and understand the colours. If you look at the letter style, the font on these books, it's open dyslexic. I hadn't realised that so many children suffered from dyslexia. So what we decided to do was to make the books with open dyslexic font, which basically makes it slower to read because of the thick and thin, but easier to read for a child with dyslexia. When we move then to, I'm just going to show you one page of colour. That's the type of pages that the children get. They get to know everything that's red or everything that's orange or yellow or green or blue or purple, but I also talk about the emotions of colour. I talk about red being danger, anger, love, leadership. One little kid asked me, how can red be love and anger? And it's very difficult to explain to them that they'll probably find out later in life that that's what can often happen. So that was the first book, Weaver of a Life in Colour. The books have been endorsed. Her Majesty the Queen got a set of all these books for her great-grandchildren. I sent a set of books to Sir David Attenborough because he was encouraging at the time nature to be discussed in the class. Sir David Attenborough's production team phoned me up because he got the book Weaver of a Life in Colour, and he made a programme called David Attenborough's Life in Colour, and he used a similar font to what I've done here, and they asked for permission if they could use that, which is probably one of the greatest honours that I've had, because I think that man is amazing. All my life I've watched what he does, and what a wonderful, wonderful guy he is. So that was the first book, Weaver of a Life in Colour. If we move on to the next one, Don. So here you see what I'm going to talk to you about later on is my designs. When I met the Queen, she asked me if I could design her a piece of cloth. Could I design a Harris Tweed version of the Balmoral tartan? And I designed the Callanish tartan. And the Callanish tartan now is starting to really take off. I designed it, I met the Queen on the 16th of March 2010, designed the tartan for her the following year. And I'm now developing it into a wedding outfit for bride and groom. If you go on, there's a website, Joyce Young Collections. If you www.joyceyoungcollections.co.uk and look under Tartan, the Callanish story, you'll see the story behind it. But I'm also taking it into tufted carpets with concept hand tufting. So the Callanish tartan is really starting to take off. But this was the first book, the second book, sorry, The Rainbow That Mixed Colours. And you can see the idea next to it, the illustration, where the sky becomes green, the sea becomes purple, the people become blue. The children start to think of colour in a way that they've never thought about it before. What if things were different? What if we saw colours in a different way? And they love it. When I ask them to give me examples, they'll talk about colours at night time, colours in daytime, colours on a sunny day, colours on a dull day, colours from a distance, colours close up. So they really get this mix up of colours if the seas were polluted and the rivers were polluted. The moon that shone dark is what would happen if the factories spewed out smoke and muck and everything changed. I remember one time I was in Japan and I was passing an industrial estate and I looked at the sunset and the sunset was green. Can you believe it? With the pollution that was coming out of the factory, the sunset was green. So that was inspiration behind these two books. And it's interesting that while the schools like the colours, a lot of them have focused on these two books for environmental cleanliness for the future. The next book, Don, next picture. And here's the tide that stayed out. The tide that stayed out is a simple concept. The tide goes out, it doesn't come back in again. And I'm just going to show you one of the pictures of the moon that I was referring to earlier on. So the children see the moon, learn about the moon, and learn about the power and the magnetism of the moon. I don't know if you, as an audience of girls, know the magic of the moon, know the power of the moon, but every full moon, I mean, last month, for instance, I was up in Isle of Lewis because it was a blue moon. We had a full moon on the 1st of May, and we also had a blue moon on the 31st of May. Well, I went up to see that at the Callanish Stones. There's a magic about the moon and the magnetism and the power that it has. And the tides change, everything becomes fuller and more powerful as you get the full moon. So the children love that story. And the wind that never blew is explaining to them what would happen if there was no wind. Fairly simple concept, but there'd be no waves in the sea, there'd be no clouds blown across the sky, the birds wouldn't fly. All these type of things. It's just to get them to appreciate things a little bit differently. Okay, Don? This is one of the most important things. This is my mantra, which I'm going to read out to you because I am very, very concerned what's happening to children today. I'm writing a chronicle. My niece and her husband are historical geeks. I mean, they don't mind me saying that. They call themselves geeks. Aaron does Prince Charlie reconstruction. He travels all over Europe as Prince Charlie on horseback. They have researched my ancestry back to 1495 on my mother's side, 17 generations. And I'm writing a book just now. My grandchildren, I'm 6'7", which you can't tell just now because I'm sitting down, but when I stand up, I'm 6'7". My grandchildren have a granddad and they have big granddad, which is me. So my book that I'm writing, or podcast, whatever it may be, is going to be called Big Grandad, the Chronicle. And I'm researching back to 1495. I've already found out, which was quite amazing, I never realised this, but my grandmother, who I never met on my mother's side, was born in 1893 and died in 1921, 28 years old, having given birth to 9 children. And to think that that's how life was then, only a generation ago, only grandparents ago, to go back 17 generations, as I sit here now, the people that have been involved in my life are 17 to the power of 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 grandparents. When you go all the way back, it's 134,000 people that have been involved in me being here, who have all had to meet, fall in love, have children, survive for me to be here just now. And this is what I want my children, their children, and society to appreciate, is what's happened to make us here, because I believe that a lot of the value of life is being lost, and a lot of the children are now finding it very much about today and not about appreciating where they've come from. The mantra that I put together: our children face a world which is changing at an amazing pace. Wow. The way we live our lives today will not be the way that children live their lives tomorrow. Technology is driving change in every aspect of society. It seems that everything has to be newer, faster, smarter, and better than it has ever been before. This scale of change at this incredible pace can be overwhelming to young minds which are still inexperienced and developing. Children need a wise and engaging guru to understand and appreciate the world around them, someone to help them see the magic and the fundamentals of life and to enjoy the happiness of living, which was one of the key things, even for teenagers, 12, 13, 14, they should be happier than they are just now. Someone to inspire their confidence, to explore and ask questions, someone to deliver knowledge and create ambition, someone to help them to dream and to discover their destiny. I think within that little mantra, it's crucial that children are allowed to be children. I complained to Pearl and Dean, the advertising people at the cinema. They had an advert for Barclays Bank where you saw a parent outside playing in a puddle as the little 7-year-old girl was sitting with a bank manager getting ready to open a bank account. And what they were doing was trying to encourage children almost to become little mini consumers. And I just think that that's very, very sad. There's a thing on the news today where Keir Starmer, in his quest to sustain his premiership, is saying that 16-year-olds are not going to be allowed on social media. It's a lot of damage has already been done, and a lot of damage is done on a regular basis. I know for a fact, within my family, my 6-year-old granddaughter has been involved in issues with social media. My grandson in New Zealand has been involved in issues on social media, where sites that shouldn't be shown to children are creeping into computers, wherever they come from, I don't know. But my grandson in New Zealand, all the class lost their computer while the teachers researched where these things had come from. When my daughter Sharon asked Theo what had happened, he says, "I don't know, Mum. Somebody had got a prawn site on their computer." So the innocence of a child who saw it as a prawn site indicates to you what's happening, that these things are creeping through and affecting 6-year-olds and 9-year-olds, which I think is such a shame. It is such a shame. Next slide, Don. Here I wanted to show you some of the things that we do with the children. We did colouring competitions, and the joy that you get from these kids when they get involved in it. I mean, that's top left picture is children in India. We've also got children in Uganda. We've got children in Ethiopia. We've got children in America, Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand. And what I try to do, I contact a lot of these people that look after children, orphanages and whatever, and send them a set of books. And they in turn send back pictures of the kids. The picture at the top right was at Glasgow University, where the textile design students invited the primary schools in to teach the kids to weave. The children at the bottom would do colouring competitions. The one on the bottom left was a school in Glasgow where there was 32 different tongues, different ethnic children within the classroom. Quite unbelievable. And then the kids on the right are from a Yorkshire school, and the children win for the school a set of books. The Malcolm the Weaver books are currently in 10,000 schools in England and Scotland. There's 21,000 primary schools altogether, and we're in 10,000. And what I do is I get businesses to sponsor £500 or £1,000. The books cost £25 for a set. And I encourage businesses to make a donation of £500 or £1,000, which is quite feasible for them. That then allows 20 books or 40 books to be allocated to schools. We've had books in all the schools in Edinburgh, Stirling, Perth, Glasgow, Liverpool, Chester. Last month we put them into St Anne's and Bodmin Moor. They went into Norwich and Cardiff last week. We're now looking at Belfast and Dublin. And the target, as I say, is to get the books into all 21,000 schools to educate the kids. And Tintwistle School, I mentioned Tintwistle School, which I spoke to the children last week. I sponsored 20 sets of books into the one school so that it becomes a class activity, so that all the children are reading the same book at the same time. They then sent me things that they'd done, and they'd been outside. They'd gathered wool from the barbed wire and spun some yarn. They'd dyed the barbed wire from some brambles or from some roots that they'd gathered. They'd woven a little piece of cloth for their headmistress, but they'd also woven on their school fence. They'd used the uprights on the fence to weave leaves and sticks and whatever through, which is quite fantastic. And there's schools nearby where I live in Harrogate who have got earthlooms, where the earthlooms are there all the time, and the children change it from ribbons and laces and yarns to sticks and flowers and leaves. And it's just a great little promotion for them. The other positive thing that's happened in Harrogate, where I live, there's 35 primary schools here, and the Rotary Club sponsored books into all the 35 schools. 8 of these schools brought textiles back onto the curriculum. And when I do talk to a school, the teachers are dismayed that some of the things that I'm talking to them about, some of the things that they can see how much the children are enjoying it, has been taken away from them. You know, they're not getting that sort of education anymore. So as a weaver, trying to teach your children, even if I spark 1 or 2 or 3, the interest in them, to me, it's very, very important. I think it's a generation that, instead of encouraging them, as Barclays Bank do, to open a bank account, to encourage them to find out that silver birch makes you a beautiful shade of black, or a dandelion gives you a shade of red. Because when I ask the children, what colour do you think dandelions make, they obviously say yellow. And then they find out, oh no, it's not, it makes red. Lichen, which is green, gives you a magenta sort of colour. So they'll probably never, ever have to realize, appreciate that or work with that, but to know it, I think is very important. And when I ask the children at the start, what do they want to be? They tell me all these things, as I mentioned earlier, about a soldier, about a YouTube influencer. Some of them say, my God, where does that come from for a 6-year-old, a YouTube influencer? But when I've finished, they want to be artists, they want to be designers, they want to make clothes or whatever, which is good. So if you could move to the next one, Don. This is an area that's my daughter Sharon in New Zealand who illustrated the books, and you can see the illustration at the bottom where a school in North Yorkshire did some little weaving tests on tiny little miniature looms with silk and ribbons and whatever. This project was done with Viva Barefoot. Viva Barefoot sponsored 400 sets of books around the country, and they asked the children in a competition to design a pair of shoes. So you can see on the right hand side the picture of the shoe that the child designed, and you can see next to it the shoes that Viva Barefoot actually made, which is amazing for a company to have that confidence. Is fantastic, and they turned out to be the best-selling shoe, selling at £80 a pair. Viva Barefoot for the summer that they did it. We've also had some of our tartan designs woven by Loch Carron and made into children's kilts. And it's something we don't do the competition anymore, but we still offer when the schools get the books, I give them all 12 colouring pages, which I'll show you in a minute, for the children to colour in. And each colouring page for each region was relevant to that area. You know, whether it was Edinburgh Castle or Stirling Castle, and we did one for the American Scottish Foundation where we did Edinburgh Castle and the Statue of Liberty, which was good. You know, it allowed the children to get a bit of history and geography as well. So if you move to the next one, Don. So that's how the competition went out. Inspired by Nature colouring competition. There was the winning entry. And there's a pair of shoes. So we tried to do that again, but what I've realised is one success, let it go. Don't try and repeat it. And it's a hard lesson to learn. It's a lesson I remember when I was in industry, when I was working for people, I would always take a successful idea and make it work for someone else or do something. It doesn't happen anymore. I mean, one of the sad things that I'll mention now is that in my 57-year career, I have seen the textile industry dumbing down. I mean, when I was 15, 16, I was analysing triple cloths from Crombie for coats. These cloths had the top cloth cut off them to give little tufts. I worked with different types of wool. I worked with different types of crimp. If you look at the fabrics now, and I know that what you're doing is very much to bring that craft and skill and artistry back into it. From a commercial point of view, it's very sad for me to see a lot of the high street retailers, as I mentioned earlier, they don't have a lot of ladies wear anymore. Ladies wear was some of the beautiful cloths, some Meltons, some velours, some boucles, some tricotines. You know, there was weaves, there was finishes, there was compositions that were just amazing. And even for men, you know, you had all the loadings, you had all the different district checks, etc., etc. If you look now, it tends to be very, very plain. It tends to be Panama or twill or prunelle. Weaves are simple, colours are simple. The style, the artistry tends to have moved out a little bit. And even when you look at cars, I used to work on my fashion colours. I used to tell people that I could predict the colours 5 years ahead. And they would say to me, how can you do that? And what I found was that by having the confidence to say, here's the fashion colours, you could make it happen. You could say that, I mean, I admired your blouse today, Dawn, fuchsia pink. I mean, that was one of the top colours back in the 90s. Everybody wanted the fuchsia pink, and at the same time, they wanted the emerald green, they wanted the electric blue, they wanted bright colours. Remember the cars? I had a friend his job, he was Japanese, his job was to travel around the world with coloured chips to identify how these coloured chips changed under the sunlight in America, in Italy, in Scandinavia, in UK. You look at the cars now, and they're all black and white and silver, and there's a shade. I don't know. Well, maybe one of you have got it, but it almost looks like an undercoat grey. And I stopped one guy one time. I says, "Look, excuse me, I'm a designer. I'm a textile designer, and it fascinates me with colour. But you've got this car that's £50,000, and you've got it in a grey, a very flat grey. Why did you choose that colour?" And he said, this was his answer, "Because it makes my brake pads, my red brake pads, stand out better." So that was his reason. But I remember the days where cars were yellow and blue and green. I can see blue cars coming back a bit more. And I used to look to see what Lamborghini were doing with their colours, because you'd find that whatever Lamborghini did, the Fords, the Morris, all these other companies used to come on and do the same. So if you can move on to the next one, Don, please. Here's the colouring competitions that we did. And what I tried to do is I tried to pick on charities and work with the charities to promote it for children. I worked with the Yorkshire Children's Charity. The Society of Dyers and Colourists feature in each one because they're a charity. But you can see on Bannockburn for the borders, we did Bannockburn House, we did the William Wallace Monument, Stirling Castle, and a tartan. And with the Edinburgh one, John Muir, which is the country park in East Lothian and Dunbar, where I come from, we did the route of the John Muir Way, the Bass Rock near Dunbar, Dunbar Castle, Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, and the Hill House at Helensburgh, again with a tartan to get the children involved in that. The one in the bottom right is the colouring page that all the schools get now with the set of books, because I try and promote Angel of the North, York Minster, Big Ben in London, and the Liverbirds in Liverpool. So we're teaching the children a little bit about history and geography as well as colour. And the results that we get are amazing. What we did with these competitions, they went round 12 different regions, and the schools got a £200 prize. The school got a set of books, and the winner, whoever the child was, got a set of books for themselves as well. So it was a nice way of launching it around the schools. And now when the schools are working with me, I send them all the 12 colouring pages for them to get involved in, to see what we've been working on. Our key charity that we work with is the Fashion and Textile Children's Trust. Any money that we generate, or any raffles that we have, or any events that we have, the Fashion and Textiles Children's Trust are the beneficiaries, because that's an amazing charity looking after the members of the textile industry. Next slide, Don, please. And here's some of the winners. And I hope you agree, when you look at the ages, I mean, these are 4, 5, 6-year-old kids that have come up with these ones. The tartan that was designed is the one top right in the middle. Loch Carron have woven that tartan, and Gordon Nicholson up in Scotland have made a little tartan kilt, children's kilt. But look at the bottom left one, where the girl has taken Leeds City Hall and rainbowed the City Hall, which is amazing. And some of the colours, like the winning one, the one on the easel, the little boy is not only coloured in the picture, but on the clouds he's put faith, love, hope. How beautiful is that? And I think that's what I've found with doing what I'm doing here, is that there's a beautiful innocence, there's a charm, there's something that's getting lost as society starts to take the childhood from the children. And what I find is I do the presentations here to yourselves, when I do it to the schools with the teachers, when I do it to businesses, the support I get is fantastic. And I think that the work that you do, educating people, the work that I do, there needs to be more people doing this to try and sustain, maintain, and bring it all back again. I mentioned earlier about my career. People ask me about retiring. I will never retire. I love what I do. And my son and daughter, I've got 19-year-old twins. Aidan became an electrician apprentice 2 years ago. Zoe became an interior design apprentice 2 years ago. And I remembered how 55 years ago, how much I enjoyed my apprenticeship. So at the time I was working in Egypt on consultancy and India on consultancy, and I wasn't particularly enjoying it. So I thought about what I could do, and I took my Callanish tartan, and as I say, I work with Joyce Young Collections on wedding outfits, and we're having a very, very successful presentation. I was invited over to New York in April. Can you believe at 72-year-old, I was on the catwalk of Dress to Kilt on Fifth Avenue, modelling my tartan and my kilt. I mean, it was quite unbelievable. My kids were so chuffed that there was I on the catwalk in America with all these young models modelling the tartan. I'm also working with Ava Innes bedding, luxury bedding, to take that to make luxury part of what we're doing. So instead of the price deflation, trying to bring it all back into luxury. And as I mentioned earlier, we're launching this week the Callanish tartan as a tufted rug. So 3 new businesses that a year ago didn't exist or 2 years ago didn't exist are now what keep me busy and keep me going down a different path. The books, one day I would like to think I'd take this into animation. One of the problems when I tried to do this 5, 10 years ago was it's so expensive. You know, animating companies wanted 30,000, 40,000 pounds. Today with AI, I could probably in 2 or 3 years' time make my own animated programs. Things have changed so much. So that's given you a quick insight into what my life has been about, what I'm doing and what I'm still doing. I hope you've enjoyed the little story. I hope you've enjoyed and appreciate what I'm trying to do for children. And in the last few minutes, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. That was so fascinating. There is one thing that we have got to do that I forgot to mention at the beginning was that you are giving away a set of your books, aren't you, tonight? And I think Nikki is going to put those are people who've actually turned up tonight, is what you do. You explain it, Nikki.
Okay, I've written all your names down. I have your names against a number, and I'm about to spin the wheel. Trouble is, you can't see the wheel spinning. Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
And you won't know what the number is because you won't be able to see that. Hopefully, I will. It's number 7, which is. Are you there, Sarah?
We missed out. Is it Sarah? Is it Sarah?
Well done, Sarah.
Well done.
You've got a set of books coming.
Oh, I'm really delighted.
Number 7. And just to prove that I did actually write all your names down and put the numbers to it.
That was good. That was a good way of doing it, Nikki.
Honest. And you have a set of books that I have here all ready to post. So I need your address, please, Sarah.
So
I have
we'll
it
send
all
it over. Thank you, Malcolm.
ready here to put in an envelope. So congratulations. Thank you so much, Malcolm. So I've read these books and my grandchildren have read these books and I cannot tell you how amazing they are. And the fact that they twist back up the other way is the one greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So
the children just love that, Nikki. The children love it.
Why is it upside down, Nana? Well, you've got to turn it up the other way and do it up the other way.
Yeah.
They absolutely love that bit. And they're also ageless, really, is one thing I'd say about them, Malcolm. I enjoyed reading them. The 3 or 4-year-old you can enjoy reading them to. They're not something I wouldn't ever say they were set in an age bracket. They're good for every age because they show you something and it's informative, they're fun, they're colourful, they cover everything.
I think the other thing too, Nikki, I also work with a group called Jenny Ruth Workshops near Ripon. And Jenny Ruth is for children and adults that have got Down syndrome or autism. And we go across there and they just love it. I mean, I walk in and it really is. I don't know how Elton John and all these guys cope with their fame, because just as what I do, very, very simple. The kids love it and they love working with colour. They love weaving. They love telling me about what they've seen, about birds' feathers, about the colours in the sky. The questions I get asked, if they see colour the same as me, if when they close their eyes, does the colour change? How do you make white? Is one question I was asked.
So it's always a good one, isn't it? What color
Yeah.
is white? White is white a color? Trying to explain that is when that question comes up.
See,
Yes, I've been there.
what I teach them, which is again, if you mix all the pigment colors together, so you mix all the colors of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, blah blah blah, you create black. If you shine all the colored lights together, you create white light. And they get it, you know. And to know that mixing colored pigments gives you black and mixing colored lights gives you white, it's something that's just a bit special, you know. And most people in the world, I would say the old 80-20, won't know that. They don't know these things. And Nikki, to your point, is the number of teachers that say to me when I finish my presentations, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. Um,
There's a
it's
question. There's a question from Lindsay Malcolm. She said that she's interested in how your children came to be taking on apprenticeships as opposed to college, university. As a secondary teacher, I find it difficult to access apprenticeship information or opportunities. Have you got any
Yeah,
hints?
I think a lot of it is in their DNA, Lindsay. I found school very difficult, and when I got my design apprenticeship in textiles, I just flew. I became a different person, and I remembered how special that was. And when Aidan and Zoe were going through the same period, they were struggling at school, they were struggling with exams, they were struggling with the disciplines of what they were being taught. Aidan, as an apprentice electrician, is just a different man. You know, he's just blossomed as a person. And Zoe is just totally in awe because she likes the fact that she's followed a little bit in my footsteps into textiles, but she's loving it. She's learning to make curtains. She's learning to do pleats and all these type of things. And one of my son Aidan tells me that some of his peers that stayed at school are now finding it very difficult. They're finding it difficult when they see kids that have left and are doing these type of things. But their mother and I, while we're divorced, we both encouraged them to do what they wanted to do, to be who they wanted to be. And all my children, I mean, my four older daughters, all went to university as an example. They're still paying the debt that they had, that they created at university. My daughter Rosalind's a doctor in psychology. She was at Ashworth Women's Prison near Birmingham, which was a tough job. My daughter Dawn's a midwife up in Edinburgh. My daughter Sharon's an artist out in New Zealand. And Katrina's a marketeer. So they all went to university. I would say that Aidan and Zoe, the 19-year-olds, are in a happier place at 19 than my older daughters were when they were at university. So I think they had a lot of encouragement, Lindsay, and a lot of support to do what they wanted to do.
That just reminds me actually that the project that Nikki mentioned at the beginning, the one that we're working on at the moment, which is Future Threads, and that is all about careers in the textile industry. And it's we're going to have 5 big resources that will have video interviews and factory tours and all sorts. And I went up to Pennine Weavers a couple of months ago, and we interviewed a young lad who was he was probably in his mid to late I think he's probably about 27, and he said that he was rubbish at school, you know, and his broad northern Yorkshire accent, he's like, he was rubbish at school, and he really liked football, so and he was really good at football, so he actually went to Leeds, I think, to as a junior, but then he did did something to a ligament in his leg, which cut his career short at about the age of 16, 17. And his dad knew a guy who was the manager of the Pennine Weavers then days, so you're talking 10 years ago, and just said, "Oh, could you get our lad a job, anything, you know, sweeping floors, whatever." He then went on, he got the job, sweeping floors, started packing boxes, sweeping floors. He then moved through the factory because he was quite bright, and he didn't mind hard work, and he moved through the factory, eventually became a weaver, and is now doing an apprenticeship as a designer, weave designer, which is a bit different to being a garment designer, whatever. He's
Yeah.
actually designing, putting pattern onto the looms, whatever. And he's doing apprenticeship in that. So 10 years later, this lad who's about 26, who started with no GCSEs, no A levels, none of that, went to be a footballer. That was his life. That's all he ever wanted to do. That was cut short. Went to just like dusting about, lazing around on his sofa. His dad's mate got him a job in a factory sweeping the floors, and he's now even the CEO of that company said to me, Gary Eastwood said, that lad's probably going to take over my job. He's going to be managing this place in a few years.
That's amazing.
Which is an amazing story.
Let me tell you another amazing story, Dawn, totally relevant to your story that you've just told. In 1975, I moved down after I'd done my apprenticeship at Galashiels and worked with Adam Patterson. I got this job at Hurston Mallinson. So my job was assistant textile designer for Hurston Mallinson. The production director at the time was a guy called Malcom Eastwood. Now, we used to work on a Saturday morning, and I had a stepson, Gary, and I would take my Gary in. Malcom Eastwood would take in his son, 5-year-old son, Gary Eastwood, and our sons would play in the showroom while we worked. That Gary Eastwood's the same guy that now runs Pennine Weavers.
There you go.
And
There you go.
Gary and I worked together for 10 years at Parker, where he was the production director and I was the sales and marketing director. So
there you go. Small world.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? But that's the magic within the textile industry, and that's the magic that I try and instill in children is the little song that I sing to children. I'm not going to sing it to you, but I've sent it to Dawn because I wrote a song for the children. As part of what I do, I play the song. And the words of the song are, whatever in the world may go wrong, the weaver can fix it with his song. I then get the children to do shuttle, treadle, weave, pick, and they all do that, and then magic at the end of it. So shuttle, treadle, weave, pick, magic. But when I finish with the children, I say, right, let's sing it one more time. And the final thing that I hear from them is shuttle, treadle, weave, pick. And they just love it. And it's that magic that I believe we've got to get back into the minds of our children and future generations. Because
it is. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
That is a great time to finish because we have now got 2 minutes left. So thank you ever so much, Malcom. Brilliant.
Okay.
Loved it. If you will be getting all the information, the links and everything, the QR code for the books, etc., will be coming to you tomorrow. And hopefully some of what you've said will brush off onto our teaching. The ladies who are here tonight will get into their teaching, and that
if any of you want me to talk at school through Dawn and Nikki, let me know. The sessions take about half an hour. I do them online, either Teams or Zoom, and happy to work with you to do a presentation to some of your children.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you, Jane.